the scrublands of northeast Nigeria. Vast, empty, and with the desert fast encroaching. There are very few people for miles around, and most of what you see are livestock, a scattering of cattle, goats, and the odd herd of donkeys and camels. This is Boko Haram territory, where Africa's most dangerous insurrection makes its home. The government of President Buhari says it's dramatically weakened the group, but not enough to prevent the tragedy of Chibok from happening again.
On Monday, 19 February here in DAPCHI, we have been around 6 o'clock in the evening. We heard a sound of something. We didn't recognize what is the sound mean. So after we sounded, we are in mosque. We are praying in mosque. After we completed the praying, some of our friends called us in the motor park near what was happened there. So called me, Goni, there is something happened. I asked him what was happened. He says, those people of Boko Haram comes to your town. So run away, get out of the house. Come out. I stay here. Here is my house. I stay here. Then we have hearing the sound of the students in the schools. Some are crying, some are running. So we don't know actually what was happened there. Then after 2 days, we heard that they have abducted our sisters because they were my sister there, Zarau. She has abducted.
Your sister was in the school?
Of course.
Yeah, what's your sister's name?
Zarau. My sister's name is Zarau, and she has abducted.
I'm Charles Aniagolu in Nigeria's northeast region, the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. It's a bitter-sweet moment here. Celebrations for the return of more than 100 schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram militants from their science and technology college in February. And grief for the girls reported dead. Well, I was there in DAPCHI when the girls were set free, watching from a distance as the army allowed the militants through to the town to return the girls.
I can't allow you to get to the town.
Why not?
Yes, order given by my commander. So if you go to now, you see people running up and down, we are expecting fight.
Really?
And you not have gun. So quickly you should move back. Okay. See the town, you saw it, everywhere people running, we are expecting threat. So
right.
Get back.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just tell me what we're looking at.
We are looking at the convoy of the Boko Haram coming through the convoy of the Boko Haram passing through the bush path, and we suspect that's where they took the girls when they kidnapped them instead of passing through the major road. And
so what we're looking at now, basically, as we drive on this road, is a convoy of Boko Haram vehicles. That is why the army stopped us when we got to that point, because they did say there was an operation going on.
Yes, and the situation is not safe for us because they're expecting maybe Boko Haram may come around the place.
And what we're looking at now, because the driver was pointing that out.
Yes, it's suspected Boko Haram convoy. Driving through the bush path.
But they seem to be driving unchallenged.
Yes, you know, they seem to know the bush path better. But I don't know how the security situation is right now.
Right, but the advice is basically to get out of here.
Yes, and sharp.
In fact, that moment was very dramatic. You know, it's something you pray as a journalist. It was one of the defining moments of my career as a journalist.
4 years ago, I, along with an Arise News crew, went to Chibok in Borno State and brought the story of the abductions there to international attention. I had no idea that 4 years later, I'd be back in the neighboring state of Yobe and a similarly small, sleepy town to witness extraordinary parallels between the Chibok kidnappings and the DAPCHI abductions. This Arise News special report aims to throw light on the many unanswered questions that surround the DAPCHI kidnappings. Because just like the Chibok situation, so much of what happened in DAPCHI is still shrouded in confusion. Four years ago, more than 200 girls were kidnapped from their school in Borno State in northeast Nigeria. The assault illustrated both the weakness of the government to contain an Islamist insurgency and the audacity of Boko Haram, an armed group whose name roughly translates as Western education is forbidden. Some captives were gradually released, others are still being held to this day. Last month, another 113 girls were taken from this school in DAPCHI in neighboring Yobe State. Most feared that their fate would echo that of the Chibok girls, forced to renounce their Christianity, put through marriage ceremonies with their kidnappers, or sold as domestic or sex slaves. According to one version of what happened in DAPCHI on February 19th, there were simply not enough soldiers or police to cover the surrounding area with reliable security.
There is no defense. There is no defense because the Boko Haram came here. We have a single soldier in this town. Even the policemen, we have run together with them. Most of them, they have run into our houses, and the houses of those that have run into bush. They sleep there. In the morning, I was there in their station. In the morning, they are gathers. Those that run into bush, they come back, they gathers, and even the DPO is not in this town by the time that this was happened. So there is no any security in this town.
In another version, a local man told us that Boko Haram didn't just happen to carry out a raid on this little town, but had clearly planned it, having been tipped off that there was only one girls' secondary school in DAPCHI. He said they attacked his father during the raid and tried to force him to give them directions to the school.
He is running away from them. You know, the gun is in this side, so you have to run away to this side where you think is safe. So his thinking is that this direction will be safer than going to this direction because the gunshot is from this side. So as he going there, a village close to DAPCHI, along the road, they just come and attack his car and bring him out of the car and took him to where their commander is because the commander is inside the car. The commander asked him some 2 or 3 questions. Baba, where can we locate school? And where can we locate military barrack? He says, all these things you mentioned, I'm an old man. I will not be able to know where they are. And as he said this, they just allow him to go without harming him or his family.
And then they went from there to the school, did they?
And from there, they've been asking. So maybe somebody assists them to locate them where the school is.
So does that tell you that they didn't plan to come to this school? They just were looking for any school, or were they looking for this specific school?
They have information because we have only one boarding school in this town. That is the DAPCHI schoolgirl. So they came for the abduction of the school, but they don't know where the actual location of the school is. So that's why they are looking for somebody who will facilitate and take them to the school.
Yet on Wednesday, 21st March, all but 6 of the DAPCHI girls were released, driven back into DAPCHI itself by Boko Haram. Why were they luckier than the Chibok girls? And what did the government do to bring about such a speedy release? It was an abduction that stunned Nigeria and shook the world. Armed men dressed in military fatigues storming this all-girls boarding school in DAPCHI, firing into the air, gathering up 110 female students, some as young as 12, forcing them into camouflaged cars and lorries, speeding away, once again taunting the government and its declaration that Boko Haram had been defeated, leaving parents in agony and community members in anguish, wondering how such an abduction could happen again barely 4 years after another mass kidnapping shocked the world, sparking one of the biggest global social media campaigns in history using the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls.
At the school, we could hear lots of gunshots in the air. We were totally confused. Some Boko Haram people entered through the school gate and we started to run. But they told us to stop running or they would shoot us. Then we stopped and they asked us to get in trucks and they took us away.
Arriving in DAPCHI nearly 5 weeks after the abduction, we found a town that was grieving. There'd been no news about their daughters and sisters, and there was anger at how the government had dealt with the kidnapping.
I don't know what effort the government is making, so you cannot comment something that you don't know. If I know the level of commitment they have expressed to this abduction, I can remark them positive or negative, so I don't know what is the effort. All what I can see, after the abduction, they brought military men to the town, right? So, and if you are carrying out perception of the people in the town, say, for them to bring this military to DAPCHI after the wrong has been done is rather useless.
The coming of soldiers after abducted our sisters, it's something.
Too late.
It's too late. It's too late when the court have been when the head have been caught. So it's too late. So the coming of soldiers into town after abduction our sisters is nothing. Let them take their soldiers, go back.
But though it had elements of mystery and subterfuge, it shouldn't really have come as a surprise, because the fact is there simply aren't enough soldiers or police to cover every town with reliable security. The army here needs technical support, drones, surveillance, advanced military equipment, because without these there'd be no possibility of eliminating Boko Haram. How many sisters have you got?
I have 2 sisters.
Okay. So one of them was abducted. So the other one is still there. Okay. Let's go in. But for the families who wait on in DAPCHI, all they care about is to get their children back.
Everything is not going normal because she felt very, very. She's afraid of what was happening to her. Everything that she is doing, she's not doing it clearly.
The day after our visit to DAPCHI, in the early hours of Wednesday morning, we were able to deliver another Arise News World exclusive. Boko Haram suddenly appearing on the outskirts of DAPCHI with a convoy of heavily armed camouflaged vehicles.
Sorry, my friend.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Sir, actually, our law and regulation, they can't brief us that see the reason or what I have, but they can only give order.
Order, okay.
And
you have to follow.
Small people, get power to the ask
Yes.
man what is the reason.
But
even those who are way turn back is your colleagues.
But did they say do not allow the press or not allow anybody?
Any journalists and some people, they make sure some people where you should not allow to.
What about these other people that are in? Because all these people, they're all going.
They are entering now because of the crowd where we see people running out. That's why we stop them.
Right. Okay.
Because we see people running from the town.
So what happens to the people in the town now?
Sir, since yesterday they said those people they are on the way coming to the town.
So what happens to the people in the town?
That's what I'm telling you. They are expecting those bears.
So those people in the town have left now.
See them running to the bush. You don't see them. See them by your eye. And also tell you.
Okay.
So maybe they have that those people they are coming. Yes, sir. They are destroying their life. That's
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just tell me what we're looking at.
We are looking the convoy of the Boko Haram coming through the convoy of the Boko Haram passing through the bush path, and we suspect that's where they took the girls when they kidnapped them instead of passing through the major road. They said the soldiers have also left that place.
checkpoint now.
Really?
Yes, now.
When they sighted them from afar.
How do you mean left?
They left the checkpoint. They left the checkpoint.
You mean they ran away?
No,
They went to, it's a part of the strategy.
They retrieved.
They retrieved, but they were watching.
They are watching them.
They are watching them.
What is happening is, we just heard, the soldiers told us that their commandant has asked that journalists be kept out of town. You understand? So I made a phone call to the town. The secretary of the committee, the secretary of the parents, just told me now from grapevine that Boko Haram are advancing towards DAPCHI as we speak. And their coming is like they are bringing the girls.
By 8:30 a.m. local time on the morning of March the 21st, it was all over.
The girls.
And so we've arrived in the town of DAPCHI. 24 hours ago, this place was people were grieving and there was a lot of anger. Today, as you saw from the pictures, scenes of extraordinary jubilation, incredible happiness. Some of the people we interviewed yesterday telling us that their relatives and their family members have all been released and are now safe. And across the whole town, chants of Sai Buhari, Sai Buhari, suggesting that Buhari is their candidate come 2019 presidential election. And it is arguable that the campaign for that election has actually started now with this incredible development in the town of DAPCHI, the release of all the girls who were taken, at least 48 of them from this village, all of them safe, secure and free. A father of one of the kidnapped girls told us of his relief at seeing his daughter back.
We are already happy today for what have happened today. He has already found his daughter, so he's very excited and happy today. He can't express himself.
As the political currents from DAPCHI radiate outwards to the rest of the country and the world, it seems like a win-win for all. The government, the girls and their families, and of course Boko Haram. But there's also been strong criticism of the way President Buhari has handled the abductions, especially over what might have been given to Boko Haram in exchange for the girls. Western intelligence reports, though, suggest that the government of President Buhari, which had initially groped about clumsily when the kidnappings first happened, had overcome its initial fumble and had moved quickly, determined not to bungle the situation further. The army reportedly appealed for help from Western governments who provided drones and satellite imagery. Using these and working with regional intelligence agencies, the Nigerian army were able to close off all the routes the militants were hoping to use to cross the border to their havens around Lake Chad. The kidnappers were stuck in the merciless Sahelian heat and the unyielding desert terrain of Nigeria's northeast countryside, cut off from the support of other Boko Haram factions in Chad and the Sambisa forest. The insurgents had essentially run out of options and were reportedly forced into dialogue with the government in order to resolve the situation quickly. That would seem to confirm the assertion by Nigeria's Information Minister, Lai Mohammed, that no ransom was paid and no prisoners released in exchange for the girls. Other reports suggest the girls travelled for several days by car and canoe and were hidden on one of the islands in Lake Chad, a known stronghold of the Al-Banawi faction of Boko Haram. None of these accounts have been absolutely confirmed. For the people of DAPCHI, though, it is a moment that represents the end of an exhausting struggle. But it is also about terrible loss and sadness.
First of all, my deepest condolences.
No.
Okay? You can translate that for us.
Yeah.
We're very, very sorry. Very sorry to hear of your loss. Tell us what you know about what happened to your daughter.
Today early in the morning, around 6 to 7, so they had the people, they have brought the children from that place Gumsa. So they brought them 33 kilometers from here to Gumsa. So they brought them and they heard from this community that they brought the daughters from Gumsa and they rushed to DAPCHI. After they go to DAPCHI, they see their daughters, they have already brought them and they keep them there and they leave them. One of their daughters, he saw their daughter inside that place and he asked where the remaining one. So the daughter asked to tell him that the remaining one, they are already died. And the two of them, the Amina and which is one of the Mariam A. Hassan and the Amina.
So their names are what?
Maimuna A. Hassan.
Maimuna Hassan, and the other one was Amina. Right.
Aisha A. Adamu and Maimuna Hassan.
So Aisha Adamu and Maimuna Hassan. Right.
They are already on their way from that day that they are going, they have died. So the day that they die, and the two of them, they carried them and then buried them there for that place.
The key figures who were there with me as the extraordinary events leading up to the release of the girls unfolded were two veteran This Day newspaper journalists, the defense correspondent Senator Irebu and the Maiduguri correspondent Michael Olubode. They've covered the crisis in the northeast for the past 8 years, and they, more than most, know the context to the war against Boko Haram. As we headed back to the Yobe state capital, Damaturu, I sat down with them for an extended chat about the developments around DAPCHI over the past couple of days.
It was like, is this a dream? You watch history unfolding before your very eyes. You know, you need to like pinch yourself. Is this happening or something? You know, these are the kind of story you hear from afar, but suddenly it's happening before your eyes in a very dramatic fashion.
And just remind us of what actually happened.
You know, I will also call it, for those who believe in divinity, I would say a divine providence, because actually we are going to DAPCHI for entirely different assignment, you know, to get a documentary. And we learned that Chibok parents are coming to pay solidarity visit to the DAPCHI parents to tell them how to go about to, you know, raise awareness for the release of their daughters. Suddenly we are stopped by this detachment of military, you know, at a military checkpoint that we can't go further, that there was information Boko Haram may likely attack. This was information. Despite our diplomatic skill to appeal to the military, they say no, this order is from the above, that we can't. But what surprised us initially was that they did allow some people that are not journalists, the commuters, and to have access, but they insisted no journalists. But that
raised suspicion.
That's it, that journalistic instinct.
Thinking, well, something more must be going on.
That's it, kicking.
Because
and
if they're allowing regular people through, it can't possibly be an
see the irony. We are in between the instinct as a human to run for your safety, because when you hear that Boko Haram is coming, then we are struggling between that instinct to run for your safety and instinct as a journalist to get the news.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, Michael. I mean, because you were obviously there with us, but at the same time, you're more used to these Boko Haram things because you're actually the Maiduguri correspondent and arguably the correspondent in the Northeast representing This Day newspaper. So you're much more used to, you know, Boko Haram attacks and speculation about whether they're here or not. How did that moment grab you?
Actually, if the truth must be said, I've been in this area for 12 years and I've covered Boko Haram since inception. But I've never had this kind of experience. I've never witnessed any attack, any Boko Haram procession coming at me. They were like coming to the town, and we were there.
And we could actually see them. We could see the convoy approaching.
We could see the convoy. So we were really scared that these people, this thing may happen, and this could end our life. This could end our story. We could even be among the person that is going to be reported. So it was really a strange thing.
And then the story turned, didn't it?
Yes, the story turned because we were never prepared for that. We were just going there for something else. And when we saw that, the thing is now be over on us as journalists, that this is the story and we have to get it.
Next year, of course, February 2019, is an election year in Nigeria. And there are a lot of conspiracy theories around the timing of the abduction of the girls. But so far, there's no hard evidence to show that, as some critics suggest, it is all politically contrived and choreographed in such a way as to gain President Buhari any political advantage. Nevertheless, the government's explanation for the release, that they reached a gentleman's agreement with Boko Haram and never paid any ransom, is a rather curious expression to use about a group that's been regarded by the Nigerian government as an internal enemy, a destabilizing force, and a threat to the very existence of Nigeria as a united nation. So paradoxically, it looks like a victory for the government of President Buhari and a defeat for Boko Haram if they in fact release the girls without getting anything in return. But if the militants achieved their bigger objective, which is discouraging, frightening, and stopping girls being educated, then in a sense, they are the winners. So in that sense, it was a successful kidnap for the militants. And that's led to concerns that similar tactics may be employed in the future in the hope that it will pay some dividend. It's an issue that will continue to be hotly debated in Nigeria, and one that particularly matters as the campaign for the 2019 presidential election approaches. I'm Charles Aniagolu in Nigeria's troubled northeast region. This has been an Arise News special report.